There's questions about putting tolls in, raising the gas tax. Someone who's been in the transportation industry, how do we get back to where we were years ago to increase funding for transportation?
Well, you know, when you say that people are noticing that our roads are deteriorating, they really are. And it's a nationwide problem, but in Wisconsin, we're by far the worst in the Midwest by pretty much every metric and among the very worst in the country. So everywhere I go in the state, people are upset about it and they want something done. If you look at what other states have been doing, and a lot of other states have been passing packages, it's generally been adjusting the gas tax and or registration fees. Those are the systems that are in place and you can do immediately. Yeah, to say that our problems are so great that we should do nothing until we could toll, which is probably a minimum of 6 years away, doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think a nickel or a dime would get us, along with a plan. What we're lacking the revenue, we're also lacking a plan. These other states raise the revenue, they've come up with a plan, and they've begun to implement it. Wisconsin needs to do both. And I think if we raised it by that amount, somewhere in that area, we could have a plan to finish rebuilding our interstates in the southeast, as well as a plan to rehabilitate our state highways and our local roads in the rest of the state.
So I'm willing to look at ways we can make additional investments into transportation going forward, but I, for one, am not going to raise the overall tax burden of the hardworking people of this state. If Democrats want to, again, like I say, whether it's 25 cents a gallon, 50 cents a gallon, $1 a gallon, whatever it might be, I think they need to stop focusing on memos and start being upfront with the people of the state of Wisconsin as to how much they want to raise their gas tax.
I don't think anybody's talking about a 25, 50 cent or $1 gas tax increase. You could look at registration fee increases. That would be the other user fee. But gas tax and registration fees are the two user fees that right now go into a separate fund that are constitutionally protected because of an 80% vote back in 2014 that they have to be spent on transportation. So from our standpoint right now, maybe in the future tolls, maybe something else, but in the meantime, those user fees are there. We should do what most of the other states around us have been doing and adjust them.
And we heard also the governor talk about stop releasing these memos, against me. The memo basically said from the nonpartisan Legislative Budget Office that over $70 to $90 million is going to be taken away to basically build construction in Racine County. So the rest of the state is going to lose out on that money. This is huge. This is a lot of money that we're talking about, even when our roads are in the worst condition in the Midwest, like you said.
Well, to put that in context, too, so you've got the State Highway Rehabilitation Program, which is, that pot of money is focused on keeping our current state highways in good condition. Prior to any of this, that was reduced by $80 million in this last budget. So now if we're talking about $90 million on top of that, being diverted from other areas, that is significant. There's no question about it. What the Trump proposal would do is incentivize states to do exactly what we've been unable or unwilling to do in the last several years, which is raise their own money. If states are willing to step up and do that, then the federal government is saying, we're willing to help you, but up to about 20%. You've got to do the heavy lifting on your part, which again, gets back to how would Wisconsin do it. We could eventually toll, but again, that would be years away. The mechanisms we have in place that are constitutionally protected right now are the gas tax and the registration.
But he argues local road funds have seen an increase. Is that correct?
In this last budget, there was an increase for general transportation aids for our towns, cities, counties, and villages. Now, several years back, there was a 10% cut to those aids. So it gets them. It's important that they're members of ours and very important. The last mile of towns, cities, and counties is very important. But it really just got them back to where they were about a decade ago if you adjust for inflation.
And speaking of the budget, we ended in a surplus. But Governor Walker wants to give that surplus back to families. This child tax credit has been widely reported across the state to give families, Democrats, of course, argue it's an election gimmick to give families $100 in the mailbox. But do you think that money could be used for road funds? Do you think the majority of Wisconsinites want to see that money instead invested into roads?
Well, I know a majority of the people in the state are frustrated that we can't figure out how to fix our roads. A one-time amount, could help in some areas, but no matter what, I think we need to look at fundamentally increasing the ongoing sustainable revenue for transportation if we're going to have a plan beyond a year or two on how we're going to fix our interstates, how we're going to fix our state highways, and how we're going to fix our local roads. Access to highways is either the number one or number two most important reason for businesses to locate, and I think the Foxconn legislation showed that getting that interstate done in front of there was a linchpin to them locating there. So we need to figure this out and come up with a plan.
And the legislative session is almost over. We just have the Senate back, so it's not likely we're going to see any plan anytime soon. Thank you so much for joining me. That's all the time we have for today.